On this Wednesday night, Boeing has grounded its entire fleet of 737 MAX aircraft shortly after Canada joined the list of countries banning the planes from the skies.
If they need to be out, then they'll have to be out. It's for our safety.
I would question why they waited till today.
Authorities continue to investigate whether the airplanes are safe after that devastating Ethiopian Airlines crash on Sunday. Plus, a Toronto area tow truck driver feels lucky to be alive tonight after a plane almost strikes him on the highway. And
to raise public awareness and public fire safety messaging is an outstanding opportunity.
the Maple Leafs dedicate tonight's game to the city's first responders. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. There's a ripple of cancellations for air travelers tonight, a result of today's grounding of 2 Boeing models as airlines try to move other planes onto affected routes. 47 flights into or out of Pearson canceled today. There are already 41 cancellations for tomorrow. We caught up with some of the last passengers to fly in on a 737 before today's ban, many wondering what plane will be taking them home.
There's a lot of aircraft that are of that model, so I'll likely have a delay, but I go back on Friday. We'll see what happens then.
Well, we wondered when we got on the plane why we were still flying on it, but anyway, it's good precautionary. It's a great safety feature, so we're glad that that's happening until they figure it out.
Boeing has grounded its entire fleet of 737 MAX 8 and 9 aircraft worldwide. That's after the planes were banned from Canadian and American airspace. That follows action taken by the UK, France, Germany, and the rest of the European Union after Sunday's Ethiopian Airlines crash. Loretta Redekop has more on today's decision.
As families arrive in Ethiopia to mourn their loved ones, Canada followed the lead of so many other countries.
On the advice of my experts, and as a precautionary measure, I am issuing a safety notice. There can't be any MAX 8 or MAX 9 aircraft flying into, out of, or across Canada.
The lesser-known MAX 9 uses the same systems. The transport minister says his team received new information last night that they analyzed this morning. Satellite data comparing the Boeing MAX 8 crash in Indonesia 6 months ago to this recent disaster in Ethiopia.
Not conclusive, but there are similarities that sort of exceed a certain threshold in our minds with respect to the possible cause of what happened in Ethiopia.
Hours later, the U.S. took similar action.
According to a source with direct knowledge of the situation, this morning, just hours before his news conference, Canada's transport minister called the U.S. Transportation Secretary about that new information.
Glad we made it.
Relief today from some of the last Canadian passengers to fly on the planes. The ban was announced while they were already in the air.
You trust the powers that be. If they say it's safe, but now that you land 5 minutes ago and finding out it's grounded, that makes you think a little harder.
It's scary to know, but I'm glad that I made it.
Airlines and governments have been facing pressure from the public. Worried Canadian passengers have spoken up on social media, some insisting airlines stop flying the MAX 8, even a direct plea to the Prime Minister to ground the planes. Meanwhile, Ethiopian Airlines said today that flight recorders from the crashed plane will be sent abroad for analysis, but it's unclear where. It's expected it'll take months to determine what caused this crash. Loretta Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
3 people were taken to hospital tonight following a collision near Bloor Street West and Manning Avenue. It happened just before 6:30. Police say 2 vehicles were involved in the collision, one of which mounted at the sidewalk, as you see there, and crashed into a storefront. 2 pedestrians were struck, and police said both drivers were also treated at the scene. Paramedics say one victim suffered serious but non-life-threatening injuries. The other suffered only minor injuries. And a man in his 40s was sent to hospital with serious injuries after he was hit by a TTC bus in the financial district. It happened just before 5 on Bay between Richmond and Adelaide. Paramedics arrived on scene and say they found the man in critical condition. The area was closed for several hours for the investigation. And a terrifying dash cam video is making the rounds online. It's incredible footage of a small plane narrowly missing a vehicle before crashing beside the 404. This all happened yesterday just north of Buttonville Airport in Markham. The Transportation Safety Board continues to investigate that crash, and today we spoke to the driver whose dash cam caught the plane as it just missed his tow truck. He tells our Farah Morali how he braked just in time.
It literally just passed me, and I had like a second to brake and swerve.
Yesterday was supposed to be Bill Chan's day off. Instead, he almost got hit by a plane while driving his truck.
And so it was right after you made that right turn when you saw this plane.
I was just driving, I got off the highway, and then I was picking up speed, and then the plane just came right in front of me. I tried to dodge it, and then that's when everything crashed.
How close was this plane to you?
It was like 2 car lengths when it flew by.
And if you hadn't put your foot on the brake, what would have happened?
Front end would have been gone. I would have been hurt.
How lucky do you feel right now?
Very lucky. I went home, I hugged my son, and that was it.
The plane was a single-engine 4-seater with 2 people on board, a flight instructor and their student. Neither was seriously injured.
This is when the plane shot out.
Just whizzes past you.
Yes.
Chan, who's a tow truck driver, says he didn't realize just how close the plane was until he went home and looked at his dash cam video.
We drive at a living, so we're prepared for stuff like that, but not a plane.
Because of where this crash happened along such a busy highway, the plane had to be quickly removed and brought back here to the Buttonville Airport, where it remains today behind these gates. The plane will be part of the ongoing investigation by the Transportation Safety Board.
It had taken off, it had come around, it had done a landing and then kept rolling, which is called a touch and go, and into the takeoff portion. And it's in that takeoff portion where things went wrong.
The TSB says at the time of the crash, the plane was being operated by the flight instructor, but says they still don't know what happened.
That's the hard part, is to try to determine why it didn't work. I mean, obviously they had the intentions to have it work and to have the takeoff go as normal.
As for Chan, he considers himself lucky and is now trying to cash in on that luck.
Our company, we pitched in and then we bought like $300.
Worth a lottery ticket.
We're worth the lottery tickets. Hopefully we get a couple of free tickets.
Farah Morali, CBC News, Toronto.
Incredible footage. Well, the Maple Leafs hosting the Blackhawks tonight, a night that was set aside to raise money for fire safety education and to pay tribute to Toronto firefighters. Too bad Chicago doused any hope of celebrating with a win. Natalie Nanowski has more.
Boots in hand, Toronto's firefighters charmed Leafs fans, collecting money for a good cause.
All of that will be rolled back into our public education programming right here in the city of Toronto.
This year hasn't been easy on the crew. A deadly fire killed one person earlier this month near Kensington Market. Before that, crews battled freezing temperatures as a blaze destroyed part of the Asian Corps Recreation Center. And just tonight, an elevator in a converted church caught fire.
Well, for us in an average normal year in the city, our crews respond to emergencies more than 300,000 times. All too often I see people that are critically injured or killed as a result of a lack of working smoke alarms.
And part of the partnership with the Leafs was for fans to help out high-risk communities by donating new fire alarms. And they did. Of course, many came for the game as well against the Chicago Blackhawks. The match even had some families divided.
Do these guys actually cheer for different teams?
For the most part, they do. They do? Really? Yes. Anything to have a rivalry between them and lots of hugs afterwards.
No hugs, but plenty of rivalry on the ice. With the Blackhawks scoring 3 minutes into the game, the Leafs struggled to keep up in the first, then fought hard in the end.
Chicago, Toronto, who is going to win tonight?
Chicago.
Unfortunately, she was right. The Hawks beat the Leafs 5-4. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
Nick Cernovich is here with his first look at the forecast. Big weather day tomorrow. Got a big warm up, but lots of rain.
Yeah, most definitely, Mike. And most of it coming tomorrow evening. You can enjoy some of that double-digit temperature weather as well through the afternoon hours. It's all part of a big system that's moving in from the west. This one bringing some severe weather in the southern United States, and we could see with it some thunderstorms through the evening hours. Through the afternoon, just a few spotty showers. It's more around 7, 8 p.m. where we start to see the cold front approach, and that's where we're getting into some of the heavier weather, which we'll talk about coming up in just a little bit. For now, though, here's a look through about the next 12 to 18 hours. 3 degrees through tonight. Tomorrow, showers, as I mentioned, with that evening rain. It'll come with gusty winds and the risk of a thunderstorm. Full details in just a bit.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
You bet.
So as Nick said, a warm but wet day ahead tomorrow, which means all that ice and snow has to go somewhere. The city says it is prepared and has had workers clearing catch basins all day so the water can flow freely. But the warming temperatures could be a good reminder to think about just how flood-proof your own home is. Alice Chasson took a trip to the Home and Reno show to find out what people need to know.
So when we're talking about flood-proofing your home, it's a lot more to do than just plumbing, right?
Exactly. We're talking about the exterior, so we want to be concerned with our grade of our property. We want things sloping away from the house and not into the house.
Is there like a magic number for like the grade?
Water likes to run at about 5% or more, so if we can get that percentage, 5% or more, we're perfect.
What if you're not sure?
Neighbors like to talk, and sometimes houses come with stories, so I would be talking to your neighbors to see if the house that you've just purchased has ever had any problems or if they've heard anything.
So Jordan, what about the backyard?
Well, the backyard's often overlooked because we just clear the front driveway. We want to look at our exterior patios as well as the deck up against the house for clearing snow. A lot of people don't clear it in the winter, and as soon as that melts, it's going right up against the foundation.
'Tis the season to clear your eaves trough, and here we have a nifty little gadget that could help us. Can you tell us how this works?
Yeah, this is great. Instead of having to climb up on top of a ladder, reaching around, getting your hands all gross with all those leaves and debris that may be clogging your downspouts, consider installing a gutter guard system. The leaves are not going to be able to fall into the gutter and clog it, and the surface tension of the water, once it hits this guarding system, is going to wrap around and fill into the eaves trough down the downspouts.
So we've talked about the outside of the home, the landscaping, talked about the roof, and inside of the home, what do we need?
Well, if we haven't had a sump pit or a sump pump installed, now is a good time to do that. Let's come over and see how it works. So how a sump pit works is groundwater is going to flow into this pit, and it's going to get picked up by the pump once it reaches a certain level. That's going to get pumped up either to the interior plumbing and drainage system or outside away from the house.
Let's say you've flooded, you've cleaned up, then what do you need to do? Who do you need to call?
Well, we want to make sure we're contacting a person or contractor that specializes in either flood prevention or waterproofing your home. Don't just call any regular handyman. We want someone with experience because this is a very important and a potentially expensive project. We want to make sure it's done right.
Do you know the rules when crossing the street with a countdown timer? I'm Greg Ross. Toronto police say there's a lot of confusion in downtown intersections. We'll have details coming up.
A man has been charged with second-degree murder after a woman died in an apartment building early this morning. Officers were called to this high-rise near Symington Avenue and Davenport Road just before 3 a.m. They arrived to find a woman with signs of trauma. Now, paramedics were unable to save her. She was pronounced dead at the scene. The woman's identity and age have not been released. Investigators say they're trying to contact her relatives and are asking anyone with information to contact them. Well, do you know the right way to cross at an intersection, especially the ones with those countdown timers? Well, it may seem simple, but police say many of us have no clue on the right time to cross and the right time to stop. So Toronto Traffic Services is running a series of educational campaigns this week on pedestrian safety. Greg Ross now with our most common mistakes.
Well, there's confusion when it comes to the countdown timers.
Sergeant Brett Moore was on the streets of downtown Toronto today, hoping to clarify the rules when it comes to pedestrian crosswalks, and it didn't take long to find people who were unknowingly breaking them.
Is it had the walk signal?
Yeah.
It switched over, the light changed over, and the countdown started.
Yeah.
And you started to cross.
Yeah.
What about the person who has not yet crossed? What do you think the rule stands for?
Indicating that you only have max 15 seconds to cross.
That's not exactly how the countdown works.
What if I told you that the actual rule says if you haven't yet started to cross the road and that countdown signal's on, don't cross, wait for the next signal.
Most of the pedestrians we talked to today thought they could enter the crosswalk after the countdown timer had started, as long as they made it to the other side before it hit zero.
The reality is that's not the case. It's for folks who've already started crossing, how many seconds they have left to finish up what they started, not to start a new crossing. And that's the confusing part.
But even people who are clear on the rules don't always obey them.
And you should really stop because people have to make left turns.
Yeah.
And you're blocking them and it creates traffic.
These women say they usually do stop, but they were distracted today.
But I think we were just caught up in conversation today.
The city started installing countdown timers in 2005. A study published in the Journal of Injury Prevention in 2013 said that after they were introduced, the number of pedestrians hit in crosswalks went up 26%. While city staff say they don't keep statistics specific to countdown crossings, Moore says he believes they do work when people follow the rules.
I think the intersections, when used properly, are the safest places to cross.
And when they're not used properly, Moore says pedestrians not only put their safety at risk, it could also get them a ticket. Do you know that you can be fined for doing what you just did?
I did not, no.
Moore says under the Highway Traffic Act, a pedestrian can be fined $35 if they enter an intersection after that do not walk signal appears. Now, Moore wasn't handing out any fines today, and he says police rarely do. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Two artists are accusing a gallery owner of fraud. They say they are out thousands of dollars for painting the Toronto gallery sold without telling them. As CBC's Chris Glover discovered in this CBC Toronto exclusive, owner Stephen Schwartz has since opened and closed yet another gallery.
Painter David Goldberg has sold his art for decades and says he's never had a problem with a gallery owner until now.
To me, what he's done is just like the worst thing you can do to the artists.
Goldberg says in 2017, gallery owner Stephen Schwartz sold this painting of his without telling him, and he has no idea what Schwartz did with this one.
I know I haven't signed a contract. I'm out of the money. I'm angry the fact that he's done this to other artists, not just me.
Montreal artist Sebastian Warsnip says his contract with Schwartz did not help. After inking a deal 10 years ago to split the profits, he also gave Schwartz 2 paintings, but says Schwartz then vanished.
I kind of describe it as being robbed very slowly. You know, it's not like being mugged where it's immediate and you feel something.
Schwartz closed his Toronto galleries and reopened here in Port Hope. That gallery has also since closed, but another gallery owner in town says he helped Schwartz sell one of Goldberg's paintings. In the summer of 2017, former Port Hope gallery owner Robert Palutnik says Schwartz displayed artists' work at his place. He says several of them showed up confused to say they couldn't track Schwartz down.
I had enough of being the middle person, not knowing what's going on. So I said, it's probably best if you just take all of your stuff out.
Then in November 2017, a client came in asking Palutnik about Goldberg's painting, The Bather. So Palutnik says he contacted Schwartz to broker the deal and gave him $6,000 to split with the artist. When CBC tracked Schwartz down, he didn't deny he hadn't paid Goldberg and Warsnip.
I went bankrupt, and this business, I don't
this is old news and old business.
Both artists say Schwartz has not contacted them since.
People will sometimes prey on artists because there's not a lot of recourse.
After years of feeling brushed aside, these painters hope sharing their story will reset the landscape so no other artist feels ripped off. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
A live shot downtown. Some mild but wet weather is on the way. Nick is back after the break with your full forecast.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
The Leafs hosting Chicago. The Blackhawks in front 4-0 after 20 minutes tonight. As Toronto leaves the ice, they get booed by the home crowd. In the second, Garrett Sparks replaces Anderson in the net. As the Leafs try to climb back, they're trailing 5-2 in the third. Morgan Rielly grabs a power play goal. And then a minute and a half to go in regulation. Toronto with an extra attacker. It's John Tavares scoring his 39th of the season, a career high for him. Leafs put pressure on in the final seconds, but Chicago barely holds on for a 5-4 victory. And a huge win for Mississauga's Bianca Andreescu at the PNB Paribas Open in California. She defeated two-time Grand Slam champion Garbine Muguruza 6-love and 6-1 in just 52 minutes of play. The 18-year-old now advances to the semifinals. Remember, she entered this tournament in a wild card. Milos Raonic here also advancing to the quarterfinals as he defeated Germany's Jan Leonard Struff in the round of 16 in the tournament. Nick is back with another look at the forecast and another look at the timing of that rain we can expect tomorrow.
Yeah, Mike, we're going to get right into it. Big system actually in the United States. Lots of wind with it, some thunderstorms as well. In the southern U.S., they've seen reports of hail and tornadoes. I don't think we're going to see that stuff in the GTA, but we do run the risk of seeing some thunderstorms through the later evening hours tomorrow. So here's how it all times out. Tonight, we're looking at just cloud cover across the region. As we move through tomorrow morning, southwestern Ontario will see some showers. Those showers move across around noon to 3 p.m. tomorrow in the Golden Horseshoe. Now, this is leading the bulk of the system. Most of it is actually going to come along that cold front I mentioned, closer to about 7, 8 p.m. tomorrow. This is where we have the risk for some heavy rainfall, thunderstorms, gusty winds, but also just in advance of this is where our warmer temperatures come as well. Fortunately, it doesn't last, though. By the time we hit Friday morning, a few scattered showers, dropping temperatures, and even some wet flurries heading into Friday night and Saturday. Nothing accumulating, though, for us. In terms of total accumulations, again, about 10 to 20 millimeters, although locally heavy amounts if we see some of those thunderstorms. And gusty winds as well, certainly picking up by the time we hit tomorrow afternoon, up to about 60 kilometers per hour, and not petering out until Friday night. Forecast for southwestern Ontario, chance of a few showers tonight, otherwise about 5 to 7 degrees. By tomorrow, the warmest of the weather down in southwestern Ontario, Windsor, up at 17 degrees for a daytime high. Golden Horseshoe's a little cooler than that, although not too bad. Tonight, 3 degrees with cloud cover. Tomorrow, we're looking at highs of about 11, 12, even 13 degrees with afternoon showers and evening thunder, as I had mentioned. Now, the warm-up doesn't last too long. There's your 11 for tomorrow with the rain and the thunderstorms as well. Friday, temperatures are 7 degrees in the morning and then falling through the day. Ones Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, but we do have the sunshine sticking around for the last couple of days of that 5-day forecast. Mike.
All right. Thanks a lot, Nick.
You're welcome.
Well, no, this isn't a scene from a horror movie. It's the latest exhibit to be announced as part of the Luminato Festival. It's called House of Mirrors, and organizers say it's a mind-bending, sensory-altering experience through a 12.5-foot, 55-ton mirror maze. Luminato, our annual international art festival, starts June 7th this year at Harbourfront Centre. Can't wait to look at that, and I want to know how they keep all those mirrors clean from everyone smudging the glass as they run through it, as they get distracted because they're trying to take Instagram photos of the whole thing. More Juno stars are stopping by Q this week. Tomorrow, Michael Bublé talks with Tom Power about taking time away from the spotlight recently and about his new album, which is up for 3 nominations on Sunday night. You can listen to that at 10 a.m. on CBC Radio 1. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Good night.